G'day guys, welcome to my RSY's YouTube video. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about Hyundai Aleague for week 20's recap for 2020 guys, so let's get started. So the first match of that game, we see the Wellington Phoenix going up against the Western United. I thought to myself, Western United are a very good team, which they aren't really developing pretty well, but really they are an average football side, which they developed in a couple of years' time, which they brought into that squad of the Hyundai Aleague. But for this club, into that Melbourne squad, they probably needed a South Melbourne team, which I thought, could that mix? Could that go through? Could they have any other way of saying, oh, can I basically have a South Melbourne team which they can brought into their side? Really though, what I can say about this team, they're not playing very well. They've just lost a couple of games, but then they won a couple of matches. But they've lost this game up against Wellington Phoenix because Wellington Phoenix obviously scored, but these two people have obviously scored. David Ball and Liberto Kaki, or something like that. I can't really pronounce it right. But really, Wellington Phoenix have stepped up. They've obviously hit that market, and I really think that how the way it's going to be, I recommend Wellington Phoenix are a very good team. They've brought into that side, and I recommend how the way they play their football is absolutely phenomenal. They've brought into that side because how the way they were obviously falling apart pretty terribly, and then they obviously built it up, brought into that squad, learned how the way they want to communicate very well, and they obviously want to win games, which they have. It was obviously 2-0 against the Western United side, and I cannot believe how the way this game is obviously brought into that side. It's absolutely pretty well, and I cannot believe Wellington Phoenix obviously won that game. But I just thought to myself, was Western United going to win that game? But obviously not, because they didn't have that too much energy, and apparently they didn't. So Wellington Phoenix obviously won that game 2-0, and I just cannot believe how the way they've won this game is absolutely phenomenal anyway for this team anyway. The next game of this round, we see the Western Sydney Wanderers going up against Adelaide United. Okay, this team, obviously for Adelaide United side, I really thought that how the way the squad was going to go, absolutely amazing. Cannot believe that Adelaide United obviously didn't make that chance going into that match, which they obviously didn't win. But they played very well. They obviously played very hard. I think Mitchell Duke scored, 2 goals or 1 goal from the Adelaide United side, which he is a former Central Coast Mariners guy, which he used to play for. But I don't think that Adelaide United can step up very well if they're going to keep losing and then they're going to win this match. I wasn't too sure how it's going to go because these two sides are very hard to beat. But then George Blackwood, I think he scored that match, and then I think it was Mitchell Duke that obviously scored too. So obviously 2 of them scored. I wasn't too sure on the thing, but anyway, I just thought to myself, I just think how the way it's going to go, I really do think that it was an absolute amazing treat to see Adelaide United obviously playing up against Western Sydney Wanderers, which it was bringing to myself that I think the Western Sydney Wanderers did have a chance up against Adelaide United. They've obviously playing up against a great footy side and a soccer club, which I cannot believe that once this game goes on pretty well, usually Western Sydney Wanderers come out firing, and I really recommend that sometimes if you want to win a match, you can, but it takes a lot of pressure to verse up against good quality football teams, and then obviously it goes on how the chance wants to begin versing up against anyway. But it was a 5-2 scoreline anyway, and I cannot believe Western Sydney Wanderers obviously won up against Adelaide United anyway. The next game of this round, we see the Brisbane Roar going up against the Perth Glory side. Really, what I can say about this game, I just think how the way it's usually goes for this club, Brisbane Roar are a very good team. Sometimes they can have a great opportunity, but then sometimes they don't. But it's how the way you want to put your defence on like a very much like a pretty bad situation or a good situation. But it's going to take time, and how the way it usually goes by, I don't think it's basically going to be a very good or bad opportunity. But usually Brisbane Roar don't have that strategy or energy. But sometimes how the way it goes, it's just not a great option for Brisbane Roar to put on a good piece of defence. But sometimes they lose and then sometimes they don't. So sometimes they put on a tie, but then sometimes they obviously win a game. But it just doesn't really interest me for this team. But for Perth Glory side, Bruno Fornaroli has scored for this club. And what I can say about this team, I just like how the way they put on a great effort. But I'm not too sure how the way this club's going to go for their season. But it's going to end pretty much, I'd say, very well or not. They're probably going to end badly, and then they're going to probably end very soft. But it's just going to take time, and it's just going to take pretty much effort. But how the way it's going to go, I'm not too sure on this one. And I reckon that this club is a very good club though. But really what I can say about this team, I like how the way it is, and yeah, there was a 1-1 scoreline up against up against Perth Glory side, sorry. And I like how the way these two clubs go to each other and put on great effort anyway. The next game of this round, we see the Newcastle Jets going up against the Melbourne Victory. Really what I can say about this club, I like how the way this team goes head to head on each other. But Melbourne Victory were playing a great season, but it just seems to, for this club, fall apart. And then obviously Newcastle Jets have just gone up a bit, when Central Coast Mariners have fallen down pretty much all the time. And I don't like how the way that this team obviously goes by. I like how the way that this club really goes pretty much a great effort, but it's gonna take time and it's gonna take much pretty effort. But Newcastle Jets, let's just say this, they've gone up a bit, but they're not a good enough team. If they can beat in other clubs, like say for instance, Western Sydney Wanderers, Melbourne City, Sydney FC, I just think they're a great team. But at the moment, they're just a shitty team, which I mean, they've gone up a bit, but they've not shown me that they can play a great football anyway. But really what I can say about this team is they need to do better, and they need to do pretty much well. And it's not going to take any effort if you just keep losing games, and you don't want that at all. So it's pretty much a bad effort if you're going to win, draw, or then lose. If you lose a match, you're not going to get anywhere in life. If you win a match, you're pretty much a great team. But then if you tie, it's going to go both ways. But then really what I can say about this team, I recommend how the way it's going to go. Newcastle Jets need to do pretty well, but they're not a good enough team at the moment. I just think they're just going to fall apart, and I reckon how the way it's going to go, they're not a great team anyway. But Ray O'Donovan scored only for Newcastle Jets, and Ola Toivonen, he scored for Melbourne Victory anyway. But yeah, those are two people that obviously score for each other's teams anyway. And finally, the next game of this round, we see the Central Coast Mariners going up against the Sydney FC. Really what I can say about this match, okay, Central Coast Mariners are just terrible now. Before they were playing excellent, before they were playing good, they've beaten Adelaide United, they've beaten Melbourne Victory. Now they're just falling apart. They've lost up against Western Sydney Wanderers. They've lost now up against Sydney FC. And I just think next team, like say Melbourne City or Perth Glory or Brisbane Roar, I'd say they're probably going to lose now. Because now it's just, having to say, they're just shit. Now they're just crap. And I just don't think how the way it's going to go by this club, it's just not on. And I tell you, it's not on. Because Central Coast Mariners need to learn better. And they just need to grow up. Now they're just terrible. They keep losing games. And I'm not too sure how the way it's going to go for this club. But for Sydney FC, now they're just absolute, pretty much a great team. But tell ya, if this team is not going to do pretty much very well, I don't recommend Sydney FC doing much great at the moment. But I reckon Sydney FC is going to do pretty well. They've won 3 games, like they've won 3-0. And I tell ya, this game's going to be pretty much a good game at the moment, but I like how the way it goes. But Sydney FC have proven to me that they are a great footy side, and I tell ya, Sydney FC have proven to me they can obviously beaten different clubs, but Central Coast Mariners definitely need to do better. But it was a 3-0 scoring up against the Central Coast Mariners anyway. Thanks so much for watching my video, guys. Stay tuned for more. We'll be doing a couple of videos coming to you guys soon. Also, I'll be doing more videos coming to you guys soon, so stay tuned for more. Plus, leave a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel and for this video, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Until then, take care, guys. Stay safe and have a good one.